What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs, presented by Yahoo Fantasy. I am your host, Chris Raybon, and today we are live. We're going to discuss some NFL season-long props, and as always, I am joined by one of the most accurate rankers of the past decade plus. Who better to do it with the odds maker, Sean Koerner? Sean, what's going on?
What's up? I feel like this concludes our off season. We're finally giving out our props. A lot of the props I'm giving out are guys that we've been talking about for months now. Starting to transition to week one. But how you doing?
Oh, I'm feeling good. We got practice squads. We got rosters, man. I can really lock into these projections. I'll
Yeah.
have some. We'll have props on. We'll have three props on the show. I'll have some more after, so be sure to check for that. But we also got another special guest with us today. The doctor is in. Dr. Nick Giffen. Nick, glad to have you on the show. What's going on, brother?
Dude, just like Sean was saying, I mean, we're transitioning to actually giving out picks and props on NFL regular season football. It's exciting. Also, we got a big new luck rankings update coming in the coming days. So I'll be using some of that stuff to gauge some of my props that I'm giving out here on this show.
Oh, yeah. All right. We're going to get right into it. Just a reminder, the Ultimate 2025 Fantasy Draft Kit is here. If you're drafting this weekend, Koerner and I got you covered. Rankings, tiers, cheat sheets, and more to help you crush your fantasy leagues in 2025. It's over at Fantasy Labs NFL. New subscribers can use code FLEX20 for $20 off at fantasylabs.com/flex. That's $20 off with code FLEX20 at fantasylabs.com/flex. All right. For today's show, we're going to have some NFL season long props. And then, as I mentioned, we're coming at you live. So hopefully you get the best numbers. But the absolute best way to get the best numbers, the best bets all season long, you got to be an Action Pro subscriber. Have your notifications turned on. That way, as soon as we track these props, you will get a notification. And that will be important tonight because after the show today, we'll be dropping additional props. At least I'll have 5 more props at our handles in the app, at my handle in the app, at Chris Raybon. So be sure to check that out. Do it about an hour after the show, so make sure you download that app if you don't have it already. Koerner, Nick, we'll see if they are dropping some goodness too. They always are. 2 of the highest ROI bettors that I've ever witnessed. So make sure that you go and download the Action app. Use the link in the episode description to download that shit immediately. All right, let's get started. Sean Koerner, 2025
All
NFL.
right.
What prop you going with? Number one.
Let's do it. I'm gonna go with our boy Cooper Kupp under 700.5 receiving yards. You can get that at -114 over at FanDuel. But Chris, the first question you asked me about Cooper Kupp a few months ago was how many Tide Pods deep is Cooper Kupp? And I think your answer was indefinite, right? Like you didn't even have a number. Just too many deep. I agree, because he was starting to show some serious signs of decline in his age 31 season last year with the Rams. And they just moved on from him cold turkey. They basically cut him. Now he's with Seattle. But he was bottom 5th percentile in man and press success rate according to reception perception. Just really gruesome metrics there. He's really become more of just a slot only type of receiver, and that could be an issue in Seattle because they're going to be running a ton of heavy personnel, 2 wide receiver sets. They kept 4 tight ends and 2 fullbacks. So I think this is going to be a very run heavy team with 2 wide receiver sets. And I think, 5th round rookie Torrey Horton is going to push Cooper Kupp from the get-go for snaps. So, I don't think Kupp's going to be running 70, 80% snaps towards, the end of the season. So I think there's some downside there. But, Seattle's going to be a very run-heavy team, and I think they're going to be really efficient with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. So that's going to take away from some of the passing offense. And this defense could be elite, which will just even further, the run heaviness of this offense. So I just think there's a ton of downside here with Kupp in this environment, heading into his age 32 season, where we're already seeing some pretty sharp decline. So give me Cooper Kupp under 700.5 receiving yards.
Oh man, yeah, Cooper Cup, Tide Pod, bleach, all that. He's done. I mean, I don't for y'all out there. I don't know if I've ever seen Koerner have this many bullet points. I'm looking at the show outline. It's like, it was like the Ten Commandments. It's wild.
No, our editors would disagree with this.
I mean, hey,
Yeah.
nah, you're convicted. You're playing this with conviction, and I dig it. So yeah, Cooper Cup is a fade for me as well. I'll go up next, and then Nick, I'll let you close us out with prop number one. So mine is going to be Breece Hall under 5.5 rushing touchdowns, minus 150 at DraftKings. He's got a career high of 5, and he played 16 and 17 games the last 2 years after an abbreviated rookie year. Now he's looking at a situation where he might be pressed or even surpassed for carries by Braylon Allen behind him. We've seen Tanner Engstrand kind of do that with DeAndre Swift was losing work and kind of entered into more of a committee as well. So there is precedent here, and Allen could see more goal line work. Justin Fields as well. So, this is not going to be easy for Breece Hall to get over his career high, because even though the Jets are going to be what I would suspect to be a run heavier team this year than they were with Rodgers, it's still going to be hard for Hall perhaps to, hit his same volume numbers. Again, you expect him to miss 2 to 3 games, not just the one he missed over the past 2 years. And you could have 2 guys in his quarterback and his backup, or maybe, the guy he's, gets jumped by in Braylon Allen, seeing more goal line work. So fading Breece Hall on the touchdown numbers, under 5.5 rushing scores for me for Breece. Nick Giffen, you were killing it on this pod last year. Had some really nice hits. So where are you going for 2025? Prop number one.
Yeah, well, last year, I gave Baker most interceptions. He dead heated for that one. 2 years ago, I gave Tua 22-1 most passing yards. He led the league there. So I'll give my long shot in the next pick, but for this one, I'm actually gonna go to a team prop. It's a little scary taking an over, but I'm gonna take the Arizona Cardinals over 400.5 points on the season. I think there's a 397, but it's juiced up a little, so I prefer the over 400.5 at minus 110. But this Arizona Cardinals offense is the same offense as last year. I mean, literally every starter is back, and they scored 400 points last year, and they should have scored around 420.5 by our expected score. So there's room for positive regression, and this is our new and improved expected scores, which is part of our luck rankings update. So, when you've got the number 4 offensive line in terms of pass block grade, the top half offensive line and run block, and all your key offensive pieces, Marvin Harrison Jr., all your wide receivers, Michael Wilson, Zay Jones, Trey McBride at tight end, James Conner back at running back, right? Like the whole team is intact. And so when we look at that and we already say, well, okay, this team should have scored around 420 points last year, and now we see a schedule upgrade for this offense, I really like this over as long as Kyler stays healthy. And the schedule upgrade, they're facing overall easier defenses. Last year, the defenses they faced gave up a combined more than 7,000 expected points. This year, the defenses they'll be facing gave up around 6,840 combined points last year. Now, you can say, okay, well, what about those defenses this year? Well, those defenses this year also, on average, are net negative spenders on defense, spending around $7 million less on defense when you look at free agency and draft capital spend, including 6 games against teams that have spent $9 million less and 9 games against net negative defensive spending teams. So again, as long as Kyler Murray stays healthy, I strongly believe this clears. The biggest question is, does he stay healthy? Well, he has in 3 of his NFL seasons. And I know, that means 3 seasons he hasn't, but really it was one injury from 2022 to 2023 that carried over that compromised 2 seasons in one. So I think there's a very good chance that Kyler Murray plays all 17 games. And even if he doesn't, Jacoby Brissett is definitely an upgrade in the backup quarterback department, but hopefully they won't need him here. So I'm going to go over 400.5 total points for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, remember, Kyler was coming off an injury. Now he's another year removed, and he has said that he wants to run more, which, I mean, I guess could be a double-edged sword because it probably increases injury risk. But I think that's when the Cardinals offense is truly at its best. Kyler is a special runner as a quarterback and has some very, very good efficiency numbers doing that. So I think that'll open things up. All right, let's go to prop number 2. Sean, I'm already jealous of yours. So tell everybody about it.
I'm going to go with Javonte Williams under 500.5 rushing yards. Although good looks Raybon, it looks like, Caesars is offering 525.5. So,
Not
even better odds there. But I mean, I don't even know if we're going to need those 25 yards, right? But, Javonte should be the Cowboys starting running back in week 1, which is why we're getting this prop. I think they're just offering a prop for every starting running back. So that's good news for us there. But beyond that, I don't know if he's going to, keep this job, even though the depth behind him is kind of shaky. He has Miles Sanders backing him up. I'm pretty high on, 5th round rookie Jaden Blue. I think he could really push Javonte, as soon as week 1. So I think he's going to have some competition for touches. But Javonte, he really struggled in Denver last year, and that was one of the better O-lines in the league. So, going to Dallas, it's a downgrade in terms of offensive line. I think they're probably going to be more pass heavy than they want this year, especially, if Micah Parsons holdout spills into the season or they lose him, the defense could allow more pass heavy game scripts. So just a lot to not like about Javonte. If anything, he could be more of the pass catching back in this backfield. I think that could end up being his sweet spot. But I think, 500, 525, whatever number you can get, I think is way too high for Javonte. His floor is in the basement. I think there was like a handful of games last year, right? He had like 10 plus carries with less than 20 yards, just extremely inefficient. He has been inefficient ever since his 2022 ACL tear. I was pretty high on him then, but just he hasn't been the same since. So I'm going to go with the Javonte Williams fade under 500 or 525.5 rushing yards here.
Yeah, he started the season 8 for 23, 11 for 17, 5 for 12. That was his first 3 games. Then he had a 4-game stretch where he went 1 carry for 1 yard. Then he had a decent 9 for 59, but then 8 for -2 and 4 for 1, all in a 4-game span. He had 3 games with 1 or fewer yards on a combined 14 carries. So he closed it out with 6 for 15, 4 for 24, 0 for 0, 5 for 28. So yeah, it was all year. It was just that same kind of thing. And this is the team that gave us Dalvin Cook last year, practice squad call-up. This is the team that gave us Ezekiel Elliott last year. So it's actually good that they are starting him. That means he's going to do terribly. All right. I'm going to go with a guy that actually I like watching him play, but I do think that we have to kind of temper expectations this year. And that's Baker Mayfield. I'm going under 30.5 passing touchdowns. At FanDuel, you can get it at -158. I like it at 29, under 29.5 as well, if that's what your sports book is offering. But Baker Mayfield's been under this number every year of his career until last year. And remember, that was with Liam Cohen, who's now in Jacksonville. He had a career high 28 touchdown passes the year before in his first year with Tampa Bay. But he played 17 games, and that could be a more realistic outcome for him, given that Chris Godwin, not fully healthy, Mike Evans on the wrong side of 30, love Ibuka, but you're also talking about McMillan, a guy who scored a ton of touchdowns last year. He's going to miss, looks like, half the season. And Liam Cohen just schemed up. I thought a lot of plays that resulted in touchdowns, like an inordinate amount, I would say. So, and that's all, without just factoring in that Mayfield could miss a game or two. Quarterbacks generally miss about 1 game, but Mayfield's been playing, pretty consistently over these last 2 years. So I just don't think this is another one of those years where he hits career highs. I don't think he's in a great spot in fantasy in no man's land there as a QB7 either. So fading Mayfield and his passing touchdowns going under 30.5 at FanDuel. Remember, his career high is 28 outside of last year. So I don't mind under 29.5 or even 28.5 if it's a little bit juice to the plus side. So fading Baker, Nick, you're up. Where are you going?
Well, I love that you're on that Baker fade, right? Because I was on his interceptions last year, and honestly, I kind of like his league leading interceptions again this year. You said quarterbacks miss about one game, but Baker's not really an injury prone quarterback. So I'm going to a different, not super injury prone quarterback. And Sean might disagree with this a little bit, but I think I can get him there. And that's Sam Darnold to lead the league in interceptions at 10-1. So I'm going to address the passing volume first, because I know Sean talked about this being a run-heavy offense, and they will be. But Minnesota last year was by far the number one team in terms of plays with the lead, and by far the number one team in terms of fewest plays while trailing. If you go from weeks 1 to 17, right, leaving out week 18, Minnesota led in all 16 of those games that they played. They didn't play on their bye week, but so I think Seattle is going to be trailing more than Minnesota did. Now, they're still going to be a good team, a playoff contending team. I don't necessarily think they'll be a team that's like clinched everything by week 17. So I think Sam Darnold may have to play all 17 games this year, just like part of my reason for taking Baker last year. Had to play all 17 games because they weren't going to be a team that was going to be like super eliminated early or 14-0 through 14 weeks, something like that. So I think this is a spot where you're getting Darnold playing the whole season. And now let's talk about those pass run splits. Well, the Saints, which of course is that Clint Kubiak offense, they actually passed at a higher rate when trailing than Minnesota did for last year where Sam Darnold was. So potentially, if Sam Darnold's offense is trailing more than last year, he could still be throwing near as much, maybe not quite as much, but potentially near as much. So, and also the Saints played a lot faster when trailing than Minnesota did last year. So again, potential volume increase just from pace as well. So I think the passing volume could still be relatively close for Sam Darnold. Now let's talk about the interceptions. Well, he had 24 turnover-worthy plays last year. That tied for the most with Baker Mayfield and Kirk Cousins. But he was the only one of that trio to have 12 interceptions, while the other two had 16. So Sam Darnold was actually very lucky in terms of interception rate versus expected when it comes to things like turnover-worthy plays or bad balls thrown. And he likely also gets an offensive line downgrade. Minnesota was 16th in pass blocking last year. Seattle was 25th, although they do add first round left guard Gray Zabel. So remains to be seen how much that helps. But the rest of the offensive line there for Seattle was definitely worse than Minnesota. So it could be a little more pressure on Sam Darnold as well this year.
Yeah, Sam Darnold behind a shaky O-line. That's all you had to say. I mean, You sold me. All right. Let's take a quick break from these season-long props and do a segment presented by Yahoo Fantasy that we are calling What Makes You Number One? And Sean Koerner, we're just going to get a piece of advice from you here. This is a question I know you get all the time, so we might as well tackle it. What fantasy draft slot do you prefer in 2025?
Yeah, so first, I think you can win from any draft slot, and a lot of times I like being in the middle because you consistently have 12 picks from your pick in the next one, so you don't have to reach as much. But this year, I kind of like the end of the draft, so like picks 8 through 12. It's a lot of the receivers you and I are both high on, like Brian Thomas Jr., Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra. So you can get one of those guys, or even two of them, if they fall to you in round 2. Or, pair them with Derrick Henry, Ashton Genty type. And then in round 3, I love having George Kittle fall to me. So usually my favorite draft happens to be sort of in that 8 to 12 range. But again, I think you can win from any slot. So it's just a matter of preference. But I prefer the end this year.
There you have it. That is our What Makes You Number One segment presented by Yahoo Fantasy. And as a reminder, this episode of the Fantasy Flex podcast is presented by Yahoo Fantasy, and the NFL season is just around the corner. Fantasy football is taking over. Everybody's researching, drafting, putting together their squads. And if you have not joined a league yet, now is the time. It's all happening over on Yahoo Fantasy. That's where Sean and I are playing this year, and you should too. So whether you're a first timer or a veteran making your 1 millionth league, it's time to tap in. The season starts September 4th. So now is a great time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football. And they offer a lot of fun ways to compete. If you want more ways to play, you could try the new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues mode, where the lowest scoring team each week gets chopped. If you want to play instantly with friends, you could try the new Draft with Friends mode. If you prefer the classics, then you could get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. And if you're looking for a new crew to join, try a public league, the easiest way to play and make new friends. It's all possible with Yahoo Fantasy. Get started and play now at yahoofantasy.com/flex. That's yahoofantasy.com/flex. All right, Koerner, prop number 3, and you're starting to make a little name for yourself in the game here with these sack props. I know during the regular season, you have your sack model, and you tend to crush these. So looks like you got a sack season long prop for us.
Yeah. Yeah, so last year I gave out Aiden Hutchinson to lead the league in sacks. I think it was 14-1, and after a few games, he was the clear favorite, but he broke his leg. So I'm gonna go with the guy that I'm gonna attack in that way this year, and it's Jared Verse of the Rams. So looks like his prop went up to 8.25 at FanDuel. He's 7.5 sacks at Caesars. I like them both. I think he's getting more than 8.5 sacks this year. And you could take him to lead the league in sacks at 17-1 over at DraftKings. Love that one as well. But, Versus coming off an incredible rookie season, at least in terms of generating pressure. He had 76 pressures last year, which was the 4th highest in the league. Second most by any rookie since 2018. Nick Bosa had the most with 81 in his rookie season back in 2019. However, Verse was just extremely unlucky in terms of converting those pressures to sacks. He only had 4.5 sacks. He's the only person in the top 5 in pressure that didn't have at least 12 sacks. That's sort of the company he was in last year. And based on my expected sacks model, he should have had closer to 10.5. And that was just as a rookie. So I think we're getting a ton of value here with any sack prop, under 8.5 here. This is another one where I think at 17-1, he offers so much upside in this market. I'm taking that as well to lead the league in sacks. I think he's due for a ton of positive regression in sacks. And who knows, he could be better in year 2 and even lead the league in pressure rate. So I think it's going to all come together for Verse here in year 2.
Yeah, just hopefully for Nick's sake, he lays off Sam Darnold a little bit so Darnold can throw some picks. But outside of that, I think Verse was impressive last year, and I agree. I think you have to look at that pressure rate. That's going to be more predictive going forward. So love it. All right, I'm going to go with another fade of a running back, Devon Achane, under 7.5 rushing scores. You could get that -145 at Bet365. And Achane had 6 last season. He played pretty much the entire year. But this year, it's possible that he loses his goal line role to Ollie Gordon. We heard Tyreek kind of call out that, Achane has been struggling down by the goal line. And in the past, we have seen Mike McDaniel go with other guys near the goal line. Remember, Mostert was big on the goal line a couple of years ago, but he was washed last year. So still, I also don't like this preseason calf injury. I know Achane is going to be ready to go, and he has to be for this prop to have action, but I think it could linger and it could always kind of get re-aggravated. And I'm just not loving this offensive line. You lost your best lineman in Teron Armstead. And I just think this Dolphin team is probably going to be in more negative game scripts than the market is expecting. So I do think Achane can still put together, if healthy, a pretty good fantasy season. But I think some of those touchdowns may end up coming in the passing game. We saw that last year. And now you have no Jonnu Smith, although we do have Greg Dulcich now in Miami. So maybe he's just the vulture of all touchdowns. But either way, I think 7.5, one of the higher touchdown props among running backs. I just do not think that should be the case for Devon Achane. All right. That's going to do it. So we had, just to recap, Koerner went Cooper Kupp under 700.5 receiving yards. And then he went with Javonte Williams under 500.5 rushing yards, and closed it out with Jared Verse over 7.75 sacks, like 8.25 over as well. The doctor, Nick Giffen, gave us Cardinals over 400.5 points, and Sammy Darnold, most interceptions at 10-1. And I'm rolling with Breece Hall under 5.5 rushing scores, Baker Mayfield under 30.5 passing scores, like 29.5 as well. And finally, Achane under 7.5 rushing touchdowns. Before we get out of here, just wanted to let everybody know we have a few more of these season-long props. We're going to put in the Action Network app about an hour, maybe a little more, give or take. So if you don't have the app, if you don't have notifications turned on, make sure you go and download that, and you can follow all of us, and you will profit. That's what happens. That's what we do here. So if you're not an Action Pro subscriber, go to actionnetwork.com/pro. You can get $20 off the annual price with the promo code POD20. That's POD20. And that's actionnetwork.com/pro with promo code POD20 to get $20 off 1 year of Action Pro. So yeah, we're dropping additional props. I'll have a bunch in the Action app. So again, download the app, turn on the notifications, and you will get the notification when any of us that you follow post. I am at Chris Raybon. Koerner's at _oddsmaker. Nick is at RotoDoc. You can find us at X on those same handles as the free award-winning Action Network app. Happy 2025 NFL season. Let's get this money.